Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. So this morning I am trying, of course, another camera. I am recording you guys on my iPhone that's recording 4K. So I really liked how the 4K looked, and unfortunately, since I can't afford a new 4K camera, we're going to utilize what we have in stock. So today I'm not going to delve too deep just because I had the video that I did yesterday. Took a little bit longer to render, and it just took a little bit longer to edit and do. So we're just going to keep things really simple today, and we're just going to do some bear studies. I did sketches last night. I've been working a lot on doing doing character designs for my my children's books. So I've been working on those particular studies for a long time, and I just wanted to show you guys kind of my process as far as what I need to do to get these characters onto paper and to kind of flesh them out. So whether you guys realize it or not, whenever you develop a story, you know, there's so many different ideas and avenues, and especially if you come into contact with other people, there's so many ideas and avenues that you can go down as far as the look and feel of the overall character designs. And what you should realize also is that's a good thing, right? Variety is the spice of life. So I think that even though there might be a lot of ideas, a lot of times it takes time to really kind of flesh and feel out exactly what is the best idea. So that's kind of where I've been for the past, I don't know, year, as far as where I want to go with this story. You know, I kind of, whenever I did my children's book, 2 years ago for a client, I kind of poo-pooed the fact that they hadn't really nailed down a manuscript, and in the future that's going to be part of the requirements that I'm going to have whenever I do a children's book, is to have that manuscript done. But I haven't quite landed on a story. I know my story is about two characters, Frank and Beans, and Frank is a bear. He's a Russian bear that is a veteran of the Russian circus, and he's kind of gruff, right? They treated him really poorly, and you know, they judged him on the way he looked, of course, since he's a bear. And you know, he all along has a real gentle nature to him that, you know, only came out whenever he met Beans, which is a alligator. Beans is a you know, he was born in the swamps of Louisiana, and he has a free spirit. So what happened was basically he met you know, he met Beans, and through that friendship they really have blossomed into two very you know, very good friends. And what they do is they go on adventures and kind of, you know, explore life as it is in their environment. So that's kind of where I am right now. I've got the general, you know, feel of exactly what I want to do, but as far as coming up with the character designs, I think a lot of times story will dictate exactly where you need to go with, you know, the look and feel of the characters, what time period they're in, what you know, if they wear clothes, if they're animals, if they're humans. And I think that that is basically where I've landed. Of course, you know, whenever I have a ton of work I have to do, it really puts my personal projects to the side, which is, you know, good. But also, you know, I have to have these personal projects to keep me going, sanity wise. I really, that's a little bit too sharp. I really need these type of things to help balance my, you know, my work life. And I don't know if you have that as well, but I know I do. So that's what I've been doing. I've really just been, you know, delving into the different character shapes, right? I want Frank to be powerful, right? So I have a large head. I've got large upper body. His arms are quite large, you know, and I haven't determined if I mean, I want him to have teeth, but I don't want him to be foreboding. See, the second you put that on there, he becomes a very, you know, a very rough, foreboding character, and I don't want that for this character. And two, you know, Frank has a backpack that he carries. He carries all of his stuff. You know, he's got a compass in there to kind of find out where he needs to be and where he's going. And, you know, a lot of times too, whenever I'm doing stuff like this, I'm kind of going off into the story land of how exactly I want to, you know, portray this particular character. And even though he is gentle, he's extremely powerful. So that's the dichotomy of things, you know, that duality of character that really gives him a little bit of depth that I think is needed in this context of story. So that's where I'm going to land on him. All right, so the next, he's anthropomorphic in a way because he's upright and he walks upright. Very rarely, I think, am I going to have him on all fours, which is, you know, what a traditional bear might look like. You know, whenever I do characters like this, I often think shape, form, I think weight. And in starting characters like this, there's always, you know, a mental picture in my head that I have of the gesture, of the attitude, of the moment, of what they're doing. It's not very good for you as budding artists or character designers to sit there and just come up and do, you know, oh, I'm going to draw a bear. Well, if you've never drawn a bear before, then you're going to have a problem because you don't know the anatomy, you don't know how they move. You can't actively portray the bear in a way that, you know, people will believe. So you have to basically draw a bear a lot. And I've drawn quite a bit of bears in my lifetime. I'm not a professional bear drawer yet. I've drawn a lot of alligators too, just so you know, and I still haven't reached the proper character, you know, of what exactly I need to do with those. That particular character, I don't know what design I'm going to do for him yet either. But again, you know, whenever I do stuff like this, I want to think gesture. So I'm going to have him lean up against a tree. I'm going to have his hand come over like this. Here's the top of the tree stump, right? Okay. He's going to be facing this direction to the right. So I'm going to have him have his ear like that. Of his nose. And maybe his other arm. He's kind of like, he's kind of unsure. And if you look, I've already got the gesture down of where his weight is placed. His weight is over here behind. And he's leaning on this, but not a lot. It's not like pushing on this. He's kind of leaning in this direction. So that line of action right there. And his other leg comes around. And his girth, very large. And two, it's sometimes really helpful to draw through, even though this tree is here and it will be blocking the majority or a large portion of him, it's good for you to understand where that other foot lies, right? Here's his knee. His belly comes here, and here's that foot. Okay, so here's that other hand. Here's his fur, right? He's got his backpack, comes around here. Here's the edge of that tree, comes down, out, and here. Okay, I'm gonna have that other arm come around, right? Here's the bottom of his hand. And he's kind of like, huh. And two, it's the little moments, it's the little actions, just like that. It's that little finger that comes up that shows some type of thought. It's a lot of times it is the overall silhouette of, well, most of the times it's the silhouette of the character. I'm going to cover that foot up just a little bit. Of the character, which really reads, and he's got that, you know, that this silhouette right here, obviously interrupted a little bit by this tree. We're going to color this in just because it's in the foreground. Maybe we'll have a root come here. Goes the other way. Because if he's going this way, I want that other root to come this way. Right? Okay. Comes down. got some branches here, some leaves. Okay, so then we're going to concentrate a little bit on him. So he's got his ears. Don't want his ears too big. And what this is exploratory. You know, I haven't landed on a character design for him yet. But what I am doing is I've got a general sense of exactly how I want him to be portrayed. And the more and more I do this, the more and more I'm going to feel him. Because that's the thing. You want to feel the character. Because he's got a little smile, right? That comes around. His nose comes out. He's got two nostrils right here. I can hear my machine over here to the right-hand side because I'm rendering the video that I did yesterday. And I don't know what it is with my Mac. I think it has to do with the video card. Typically it will crash. The entire computer will shut down because of the rendering process. Here's the backpack right there. And here we'll have this come around. Right there. And again, his eyes are going to be kind of in shadow. Because he's not, you don't quite know what's going on with him. I like to have a little bit of patch of fur up here. Right there. There we go. And typically, Frank has a hat. Right? Kind of a straw hat. Comes around here. Okay, this goes back a little bit further. Kind of wrapped up here. There we go. There we go. A little bit of shadow, give a little bit of form, right? Actually, maybe he's just climbing over. There goes. He's just climbing over this right here. And here's his hand. It comes here. It's simplified. See, the more and more I do him, the more and more simple I'm getting with his character design, because eventually I want that ear right here. I want to be able to have that ear just slightly. I want to be able to animate him. There we go. Okay. He's feeling pretty good. I remember years and years ago, I don't know if I've said this before, I was contracted to do character designs for Scooby-Doo for Cartoon Network. And I had never drawn Scooby-Doo before. Yeah, it sounds ludicrous. You're like, what? You know, you draw Scooby-Doo as a kid? You gotta understand something. I really didn't get into art too much. I mean, I drew stuff. I didn't really get into it seriously until I was in high school. So by that time, even though I had experienced a lot of cartoons, I hadn't drawn a lot of cartoons. I wasn't a comic book kid. Anyway, I digress. So what I'm trying to say basically is I'd never drawn Scooby-Doo before. So I came at it at a little bit different way. And I did the character designs and they loved them. And it was a freelance gig. But I didn't eventually get hired on as an animator or anything, obviously. And I think one of the reasons why is because I was very green. For one, I had the drawing ability. But what they were looking for is somebody, as far as a character designer, to really bring out and accentuate the core qualities of what Scooby-Doo was. And at that time, I was very mechanical, and I didn't understand things in a way that maybe they needed to be handled. Let me see. Let's do this. Let's put another one right here. Head. Okay. Have it come down. Here's his chest right here. Maybe he's going to be kind of stretching. He's got his foot up. Okay. That line of action comes down. And here's his other foot right here. Stretching. Okay. He's got a big patch of fur that comes here. He's got fur that comes down his chest. Right. And here's his nose. Because as we all know, bears a lot of times are directed by their nose. Okay. It's got that lip that comes up like that. And then it's all fur, right? He's got that other lip. He's got his head here. His ear's gonna be over here. It's gonna run into the other drawing. I'm not gonna basically, I'm gonna get that fur. And since he's arced like this, you're gonna have that fur that separates a little bit right here. And you're gonna have that big hulking arm that comes here, right there. Okay? And you're gonna have that huge bunch of fur in that belly, that large belly. Here's that foot. And here's his other arm. That shoulder blade, it's right there. That other arm that comes here. Right? He's kind of maybe there's a log right here. And I'm not getting into the real just detail of this character yet. I'm still feeling him out, and that's important. You know, feeling the character out, seeing what makes sense. You know, I always think that's important. And here's his eye. Right? Got his fur comes here. He's like, huh. Getting the gesture, feeling, you know, what makes sense in the context. Here's his kneecap right here. That goes under. I got that huge belly that comes like that girth, right? Comes here. Maybe his foot's turned just a little bit, right? I got some rocks. Maybe he's on a couple rocks. Maybe there's a rock right here. You know, the rock right here is kind of balancing. He's got his little backpack on. He's searching for answers that only friendship will provide. You know, I think that's one of the things that I really miss being up here in the mountains. You know, the older you get, and this is kind of sad, the older you get, less and less relationships you have. And that's just part of the thing. I mean, people get in their ways, they have their family, certain things, and ultimately, you know, they change as people, and you have less and less friends as you get older. And it is just one of those things, unfortunately. And that's kind of why, you know, I wanted to get into this particular, story about friendship, because I think that no matter how old you are, there's still a need for that in your life. You know, I know that if you're married, you know, you have your wife, but you really need, you know, friendships. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just going in. I'm thinking about gravity. This general shape, I think, is just going to be a bear sitting. It's going to be Frank sitting, right? And the more simple that I get, the more I can feel, you know, in terms of the gesture and what makes sense. I'll have him kind of on his belly right here. Then I'll have this other hand kind of coming around. Maybe he has one finger, right? And the other fingers are kind of tucked under. You have one finger here, right? So he's kind of looking. Okay. Here's his nose. His lip that kind of turns out, and then it comes under, right? Maybe he's bushy, real bushy. I remember a while back, yeah, he's kind of turned a little bit. A while back, there's a movie, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And I remember one of the character designs, I think it was the father, and was it his mustache? No, his eyebrow. It was his eyebrow. Oh, I love the design of that character. If you don't know, look up the father in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Oh man, the father is just wonderful. The subtleties and the things he says, and you know, there's a lot of wisdom there. And you have Flintlock Wood, who basically, you know, is a scientist, and he's trying to earn the approval of his father throughout the entire thing, you know, and he just, disappointment after disappointment, whereas his father just wants to, you know, him to be who he wants to be. You know, none of that other stuff really matters. But I love the design of that character because of the, you know, the bushy eyebrow and how wonderful that is. Okay, so with bears, especially cartoon bears, it's very important, you know, that you always have some type of, like I said before, semblance of accuracy to anatomy. You just can't have things that are really weird and out there. You have to have, you know, 4 legs on a bear. It has to make sense. And see, as a grizzly bear, we have to have that as grizzle back here, a little bit of grizzle, you know, that fluffy fur in the back. And then he has some at the front. That's one of the reasons why they call him grizzly bears, because he got all that grizzly fur. Okay, his other ear comes up. Okay, gravity, of course, pulling down on everything. You're going to have a larger area right here. So you're going to have, it's going to be skinnier, a skinnier line, and then as we come down, right, and his belly's going to come out here because gravity is pulling all that fat, right? Of course, the fat and the fur hides a massively strong creature. Every time I go to a place like Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops, you know, while everybody else is around shopping, I'm going around looking at the animals because I love looking at the animals. And one of the things they typically have at the front of the store are taxidermied grizzly bears. And if you look, oh my gosh, the size of these creatures, it's far and beyond what I think I understand. I've never seen a grizzly bear in person, thank God, in the wild. But, you know, the reality is you can go to, I think you can go to the zoo and see them. But they are massively powerful animals. And I always say, you know, that's death walking. You know, you mess around with that, you'll end up, you know, meeting your maker. Putting in a little bit of value here and there. See, this is what I enjoy the most. This is something that, you know, I think as artisans and artists and people looking, you know, to do something, whether it's animation, whether it's character design, whatever it is, this is part of that thing I talked about, you know, yesterday in my video. I talked about consistency. So we're going to have a little bit of, I like that right there, right there. Just that little bottom lip coming out makes a huge difference. So we're going to have his, again, backpack. And it's not like a hiker's backpack. It's like a school backpack. And maybe he's got his hat just sitting right here. He took it off for a minute. He's just looking. That's not bad. Anyway, what I was saying is the consistency. So drawing something like this, even though it's very simple and it doesn't take me that long to do, it helps me, you know, the next time I do, you know, decide to draw Frank, I'll be able to, you know, whip him out really quickly and remember what it feels like to draw him because of these days like today, right? You know, I'll just come down here. around. Got that gruff in the back. And here's his little ear, not too big. Maybe he's got his little brow coming up. He's like, what? Huh? All right, here's his huge gruff that comes around here, his shoulder. So that's what I encourage you guys to do. I encourage you guys to be consistent, draw something small, explore a character. This is just sketchbook, right? I'm not going in and defining and making these super highly rendered. These are just ideas for character designs that, you know, I'm working on. Here's a little backpack that comes right there. Just having fun, right? See a little bit more of his eyeball right here. Maybe his hat comes like this. Comes around. Comes around like that. And his ears kind of coming out a little bit. There we go, all the way in the back. Yeah. Whether or not this goes anywhere, whether or not this story gets produced, whether or not whatever happens, I was able to do this today and have fun. And that's part of what art is, right? I think whenever we get mired down, especially at this time of year, and trying to get stuff done. Now, granted, if you have a job and you do this professionally, you need to adhere to the policies of your work or of your job. But the reality is, these personal projects, these are passion. This is a passion project. It takes a long time for something like this to happen, right? You know, I'm not in a hurry with this. I want it to be right. I want it to be right, and I want it to be mine. So that's what I wanted to say to you guys. Be consistent. Try something new. Do something new. Try something that gets you out of your comfort box, maybe. And just have fun. So thank you guys for liking and subscribing. We'll see you soon. Bye. And thank you guys once again for visiting the channel. Please like and subscribe and share. And always come visit me over on Instagram. The link's in the description. Thanks guys. Bye.